Uh, Good evening, everyone. This is Monday, April 28th, 2025. And I want to ask you if there are any questions from yesterday, and after which we will go into the continue our lesson from yesterday. However, I want you to understand probably won't be on the camera because I just finished cooking and I need to eat. So you guys, I can teach and do that too. Any questions or comments?
I have a question to ask.
Sure.
It's not necessarily pertaining to the topics that we discussed, but did we talk about the Pope's death?
No, we didn't. We did
Yeah.
not.
He also died on Easter, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Well, I honestly, everyone who's asked me about that I told them, um, I feel like I will know more after I see who they choose in terms of what it means, if that makes any sense to you. Because when you look at it, inauguration in January, Pope sick in February, Pope comes out of the hospital in March, and Pope dies in April. So there has to be significance there. However, I don't feel it enough to talk about it. And again, as I said, I would rather wait until they make a choice before um, I talk about that, unless someone has something that would spark something inside of me. Okay. Anyone?
Yeah, this is Evelyn, Pastor Jay and family. Um, do could it be that that dark energy needed to leave the earth? And
Could,
also, Charles Schwab, he stepped down from being whatever he was in that organization that he's part of as well.
he owned the organization.
Okay, well, he stepped down.
Okay. I'm not sure it was dark energy. I'm not sure because of some of the things that happened there. And I'm looking at the idea that the religious people or people who are mean sometimes can do a good thing. And I'm not sure of what happened in terms of the spiritual uh, journey from from the inauguration to the death. That's why I would rather defer my insight about it until after the choice has been made, and I feel very strongly that this is these are the instructions I'm getting from the ancestors. So I'll just leave it there for the moment. Is there anyone else?
So it didn't spark nothing in you. So, okay, I got you.
Oh, okay. That's it. This one. Go ahead.
I learned more about him after his death than I did when he was living, but he was known as the Pope of Love and Compassion, which I thought was interesting. And so he was always, supposedly anyway, trying to mend fences. uh, he, for example, was wasn't a real flashy pope.
I was again one. Better just call me first.
You guys
I don't care.
mute your phone, please?
She just interrupts.
Hey guys, you mind muting your phones, please?
Charles, mute your phone, please.
Um, for example, he did not live in this my words, quote unquote, Pope Palace. He chose a hotel room to live and make his home. He did not ride in the Pope mobile. He chose a regular car to be driven in, those kind of things. So he was different, and from what I understand, not too popular because he was different in those religious circles. So one of the political things I think he tried to do is surround himself with cardinals that thought like he did. And I'm not sure if he was saw this coming and looking for a predecessor or what that was his rationale behind that. But I just thought that part was interesting. So uh, anyway, that's the little bit I know about him. I have heard about him.
One,
Yes, sir.
you're absolutely right in everything you said about him. Um, the people who did not like him, period, were the people who surround Donald Trump. Steve Bannon in particular, because of what you mentioned about his having a heart for the poor.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about the spiritual reason for him transitioning and the way things went, that's what I'm saying. I'm waiting to see who they choose because, as you said, he made an effort to choose cardinals like him.
Hmm.
Question is, who are they going to choose? Because this is not about God choosing anybody. When I'm talking about the way that the Cardinals look at it, we pray and God tells us to do this. I believe also that it is influenced by righteousness, but it's politics also, and it always have been politics.
Yes.
So that's what I'm talking about. Will the politics take over, or will the journey or the pathway that Francis laid be a continuation? I'm done.
So, sir, basically what you're saying is that whoever they choose, that's a reflection of where they're going, just like how America chose Trump, basically.
But yeah, it was a reflection, is a reflection of where we're going, but it speaks even more than that in terms of how we are going. And as far as Trump is concerned, when you, I don't compare him to anybody in the world who was chosen to do a job other than people like Hitler and Orban in Hungary. Um, I honestly, as bad as some people are in terms of how they treat other people, I see the most dangerous person on the face of this earth is him and his cohorts right now. And I say dangerous because they're hurting people, but at the same time, we are the mitigators of that danger. And and by mitigating that danger, we are able to redirect the energy or transform the energy that could very well be deadly for humanity. And I'm not talking about necessarily deadly in them physically dying. I'm talking about deadly also in terms of people losing their benefits in terms of Social Security and Medicaid, other things like that, and people starving to death, like they're doing in Gaza. But because the aid that comes in, Israel burns it or they drop a bomb on it to destroy it. So it's a lot. It's a lot involved in with Donald Trump, and differently so with the Pope. And I have not actually seen a Pope that could end up being anywhere close to Donald Trump since World War II. I wasn't in World War II, but it was the Catholic Church who aided the Nazis in getting into South America and other places around the world. But since then, there seems to have been a more of a front or a face, if nothing else, of the Catholic Church caring, but this Pope had a greater depth of caring than, would you mute your phone, please? This Pope had a greater degree of caring than anyone that I can remember during my life paying attention to the Catholic Church and politics. Okay, I'm done. Mara, does that help?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you.
Ron, did you have something? Anyone else?
No, I just waiting to see if somebody else had a question.
Yeah, I got a question. Is there any spiritual significance in him being buried in his boots? The boots, what the boots represent? Is there any?
Kathy, I did not hear about that. I don't know. I wonder what the story is. I'll look that up, I guess. I don't know the story behind that. That's the first I've heard of it. There has to be some significance, but I don't know what it is. Does anybody? Okay. I think it is safe to say at this point we're not done with this topic. We'll probably have to address it again at another time. Get some more information, as Pastor said a few minutes ago.
Okay, well, let me ask you another question. One lady in the jail was interested in the book of Enoch, and she wanted to know, is it just one book, or is it in more than the book, you know, they left out the lost book, whatever you call it. Is it more than one in one book, or just that book by itself?
What book are you referencing?
Enoch.
You saying is there more than one book of Enoch?
Yeah, no, more than one lost book. Are they all in one Bible, or is it just?
Yeah, you can get the lost books of the Bible. It's a book.
In one Bible?
It's called the Lost Books of the Bible.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay. I want to go back to the 8th Psalm, if you don't mind. We talked about it at length yesterday, and we discussed the Jehovah, the meaning of it from the first verse, and we pretty much explained and actually opened up the first 4 verses. But one of the things that I want to look at also is, again, revisit in that 3rd verse when it says that consider the heavens, the works of your fingers, and we get down to the moon and the stars ordained or established, that portion. That the word for stars also says omniscience, the knowledge of the Creator, knowing all things. What's being said here, you are aware, you know all things, and you have established that, you have ordained that. So since you know everything, why are you fooling with man? Why would you fool with a mortal man? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
why would you fool the mortal man? Why would you even pay him an attention at all? So I think that speaks to this more emphatically about being a mere man, being a mortal man, being when I say man, I'm talking about mankind. Um, I'm not being chauvinistic at all. I'm talking about mankind. So when we look at this, I think it speaks volumes about who we are and how we are expected um, to exist in this or live in this earth. Any questions or comments about that? Ron,
I have a question. This is Evelyn.
go ahead.
Is this an internal dialogue within ourselves or with ourselves?
No, ma'am. One of the things that I pointed out, I think I did anyway, I'm not sure, is that we do not live in our body. Our body lives in us. The spiritual essence of who we are is much larger than our bodies. And when people talk about the aura around them, they're talking about the energy field that we are. So we are, if we were inside of the body and that was the magnitude of our essence, then we would be really small in mind and everything else when it comes to spirituality. So when we talk about the reason we talk about internalizing or speaking internally is because that's what the church taught us. That is what's inside of you. And thinking about and processing what's inside of us, that's a whole different ball game. Does that make sense, Evan?
Yes, I'm processing.
I understand her question. I
It
guess
does.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Evelyn. I'm sorry.
No. I yield. Go ahead, Ron. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I understand your question and why you asked that. I guess we need to figure out another way to express that because we do look at scriptures and it comes to mind that these are personalities speaking to each other, and I don't know how to express that either, but it's you talking to you.
It's the way I see it is that it's your mind, which is the scripture clearly tells us is of this material world. It's your mind, and it's your soul having a dialogue. It's the earthly essence of earth consciousness and spiritual consciousness that we're having a dialogue with. And how many times have you said, I should have followed my gut? Or, God, I followed my mind and not my gut, not my intuition. How many times have we said that?
Yeah.
That's another way of talking about the spiritual essence of who you are, the energy that speaks to you, the ancestor who speaks to you. That's another way of saying that. Does that make sense, Evan?
Well, it sounds like you saying the same thing. The question I just asked. I mean, it just seems like it was inner dialogue that we have with ourselves. But maybe I'm looking at it wrong or hearing you wrong. But that's the way I see it.
The question you asked was an internal dialogue, right?
Right. You know how we have conversations with ourselves. Yes.
Yeah. And my response was, that is external. I didn't finish your question. That response to your question, Ron did. My lead. My lead into that was talking about we are larger, we are greater, we are more than this physical body. The body actually survives and lives in us, as opposed to us living within its framework. Does that make sense? That's the first part of it. The second part of it that we just talked about, I did not address that, and that's my fault. And I do apologize for that, but I'm also grateful that everyone caught it. Okay.
Yes, sir. No apology. Well, I'll accept your apology. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Um, I think you mentioned stars, but you have to mention moon and how those two intertwine, how those two work together, because that is speaking about balance there. And
Did you address that?
would you please? You can do it a lot better than I can. I can be confusing at times.
I'm trying to remember. I know the moon is feminine,
Yes.
and the stars speaks of unlimited enlightenment because it's the word for omniscient, right?
Mm-hmm.
It also speaks of being messianic. The root word for stars in this particular verse speaks to those things that I just named. And it's something, what is it? Oh, the light, it says moon, which is feminine. So
Mm-hmm.
without the feminine presence of the moon, the stars cannot be seen. So the reason I do believe the metaphor of moon and stars was used here is because um, the at night when there is a clear sky, you see the moon and the stars. And if I'm to continue this understanding this metaphor, the reason that the stars are light and there is darkness in the background of the stars is because the darkness is indicative of the wisdom that was birthed by femininity, and the stars are the understanding of that wisdom that was birthed by feminine energy. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Hey, good morning, or excuse me, good evening, Reb. I hope this enhances what you say. By way of some of my brothers that are 5%ers, they have always associated the sun with man, the moon with woman, and the stars they equate to children. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
One of the things I read was because of the colors that it displays, and it being a cycle, it's the moon was a symbol of beauty, and beauty means balance. And I thought that was interesting. The other thing is, when I think about balance, when I look at this and look at what you're saying, the stars represent the endlessness of the energy. You don't arrive at that point being bullish, being masculine, and being dominant. You come in I hate the word submissive, but in an inquisitive way. You
Or
come
humility one?
Yeah,
Humble.
yeah. You come in seeking. So this is saying a whole lot to me. And like I said, it's kind of hard to put in words, but when you look at this, it is talking about how to have balance, how to you have endless possibilities. There's knowledge there. There's things that that are open for you to see. The universe belongs to you, but you enter into this in a certain way. And if you become one with the universe, become one with self, there are endless possibilities. You see yourself, and to me, that is becoming Elohim. That's how you recognize who you are. Kind of, sort of, if
Yeah,
that makes sense to you.
yeah. Anyone else?
I have a question. This is Vermel. Good evening, everyone. Ron, you went over moon and stars. What about fingers? What do they speak to? With his like fingers.
Pastor talked about that yesterday, because the fingers, and the other one too, Pamela, that caught my eye was your heavens, the pluralness of heavens. But Pastor talked about that. I think you called the fingers the authority, Pastor.
Yeah, the authority to grasp, meaning that if the hand is the essence of authority, and it does represent that spiritually, then the finger represents the ease with which you grasp things, whether that be grasping it through understanding your spiritual walk. And this idea of grasping is speaking to being able to understand without having to struggle to get it. The authority of the finger is no different than me saying, well, I don't need my whole hand to move that chair. I'm strong enough to move it with my finger. If you use that, if you think about that in relationship to what was the loftiness, ordination of things, ordaining of things, and the omniscience, is talking about the ease with which you are able to grasp the understandings of who you are, because it's been ordained by Jehovah. Does that make sense, Vermeer?
It does. Thank you.
Now, the other part I see in that is this. It also says to us in a different way, but the same thing. The ease is based upon you.
Yeah.
The ease with which you grasp it is predicated on your commitment to the journey, as well as your desire to know. And instead of us looking at things like, well, that's so hard, maybe we should look at them a different way. And instead of saying that's so hard, it's would more likely be something like, this is so rewarding. This is changing my view of things, or the dynamics of the journey that I'm on. Why? Because if it were not for spiritual calisthenics, you would not be strong enough to withstand the onset of the evilness, the onslaught of the evilness. So all I'm saying is that the trials that we face are not there to destroy us, even though we complain about them or we don't want to be in it. What I have experienced with me is the more I kicked against the prick, the more I struggled against whatever I was going through, the heavier the burden became. But when I was able to say, you know what, there's absolutely nothing you can do about this. You need to let it go. And working with that, being able to let it go, the circumstances didn't change, but I did. Does that make sense? Hello?
It really does. It resonates deeply.
Thank you. So that So the journey that we have is not always pretty, but the journey that we have is always strengthening, and it does not strengthen simply the way that we would like it to, but it strengthens the way it's supposed to. I'm done.
Well, Reb, is it safe out to the group? Is it safe to say when we talk about fingers, from my perspective, each finger has a purpose
I said,
and
what?
it has its own. What's that again, Reb?
I didn't understand what you said. A finger is what?
Each finger has its own personality.
Okay.
Yet, when you combine a fist, all come together to serve a purpose. So I just look at fingers as, you know, the index finger can be a Democrat. The middle finger can be independent. The ring finger can be someone that doesn't even believe in God. Your pinky finger can believe whatever it's to believe. Your thumb can be whatever. Yet, when they come together and form a fist, they can push those egos to the side to get something accomplished. That's just how I look at it. Thank you.
Okay. And the way you look at it is that's the way you look at it. However, when we're talking about this from the psalm that we're talking about, the psalm is continuously alluding to the idea of strength, of wisdom, of knowledge, of what else? Describing the attributes of Jehovah, describing the attributes of Adonai. So it's the attributes of Jehovah that Jehovah has embedded in us through our Master, our God, Adonai. So I guess I'm simply saying that in a physical sense, that's how you see it. In a spiritual sense, it's somewhat different. That's all. George?
Oh, appreciate you, Reb. I'm listening, boss.
Okay. Anyone else?
This is Mel. I'd like to ask another question. You had used the term evil. Is evil unawareness with our intent?
Evilness is unrightness,
Okay.
according to the Aramaic and Hebrew.
Uh-huh.
And unripened does not mean that you're rotten, that you're useless. Unripened means just what it says, you're not ripe. The question is, are you going to fall off the tree before you get ripe? Or are you going to stay on the tree too long doing nothing except going to church every Sunday and fall from the tree because you're rotten? You worn yourself out doing nothing. And now you become fertilizer for the next round of fruit on the tree. Now, someone else may see it differently or may have a better explanation that gives you greater vision of what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind when I hear that term again.
Say again?
I'll keep that in mind when I hear that term again.
Okay.
I like that. I like that definition, that understanding of it.
Right. Um,
May I add something? This is Barbara.
of course, yeah.
Everything has its season and it has its time. And so when you talk about unripeness, what is unripe now for a particular situation or circumstance may not be unripe at a different time, given the experience, the circumstance, or what you're dealing with. And so it's sort of it's sort of using a spiritual attribute, if you will, outside of its its meaning for a particular season or a particular experience. I think someone used an example before about, telling a lie, or taking a loaf of bread, or and I'm getting ready to get myself in trouble because I can't really expound on this, but the question is it unripe to take that bread if lives are dependent on having that bread that day, that loaf of bread that day somewhere? Or is the unripeness in just taking it just for the sake of taking it because you can? We're taught such rigid rules about what things mean or what they should mean, instead of interpreting them through the spiritual eye or the spiritual heart itself and intent. And I know I just stepped in it, but what's unripe right now may not be unripe later.
I don't think you stepped in it because I saw both sides of Mayot while you were talking. If you took the bread because somebody life depended on having that bread, then that's an attribute from Mayot. If you took that bread simply because you could, then that is antithetical to what Mayot teaches. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I see what you're saying.
I guess,
Mhm. Go ahead.
I guess I saw in what Barb was saying too. I was thinking about the verse, I create light and darkness, good and evil. And I know I didn't say that, quote it right, but it's an opportunity. It's we look at these verses, we look at that word and we think negatively, but as Barb said, you're not going to always be unripened. So you have opportunity. You have the cycle of the moon. You go through phases in life, and even when you start on the journey and you start seeing light, there will be days that you feel not connected. So I see it now. Evilness is something different. It's it's a not right now kind of thing, but you still have opportunity uh, to become light, to become enhanced in your recognition of self. So uh, nothing is as we were taught. There's nothing negative about anything that we see in us, unless you see it and make it that way yourself. That's how you perceive yourself, and then it becomes negative.
You know, Ron, based on what you just said, I don't believe you can clearly see yourself until you see humanity. When you see yourself, you begin to see humanity because it changes your attitude, it changes your outlook when you come to others. Why? Because when you see you, you see everybody else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments?
When George was speaking too, he gave me a thought of seeing the fingers metaphorically. Uh, when you grasp something, you see something that you need or you want, you don't have to negotiate with the ring finger or the thumb. It all works together. And it picks up the connection that I need this or I want this. So that verse to me is talking about unity. Uh, when you understand, as you just described, Pastor, who you are, that oneness and that single-mindedness, that example of the people on this phone having the same desire to move in this direction. So that's where I see with the fingers, it represents I take control of something that the people are in need of, that we are in need of as I follow this journey of understanding.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay. Would you look at verse 5 in 8 some? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and has crowned him with glory and honor. That's one of the most fascinating verses that I've ever read. Not they, but one of. The he of whom the writer is speaking, is mankind. So it's really an it. What he's saying is that for you made it a little lower than, guess what? Elohim. That word angel should have been translated Elohim. So what is he saying here? He's saying that mortal man is a little lower than Elohim. Can you see that? When this mortal man realized that it is truly spiritual, then it becomes Elohim, or it becomes aware that it is Elohim. Can you see that?
Pastor, did you look up little lower? What is that saying?
I same thing, little lower.
Okay.
Little means to be without a small amount. And if I'm not mistaken, Lord was like little or lacking. So
Okay.
both of them, so it said pretty much the same thing, but that's not the fascinating words. The ones that I talked about were mortal man and Elohim.
Yes.
The idea of the crown. I mean, at church, we talk about wearing a crown when we get to glory land. It says that even though this mortal man is lower than Elohim, this mortal man has been crowned with glory and honor. Do you see that one? He's been crowned with glory and honor. Got it? Yeah, we got it. Okay. When it says crowned translates as to surround for protection or to encircle in order to protect something. Has nothing to do with the crown on your head. And the glory is honor, splendor, and majesty. So what I'm seeing here is that the mortal man is lower than Elohim, and around this mortal man, there is a protection. This mortal man is encircled. How is it encircled? It is encircled with splendor, majesty, and honor. Now, it is encircled, meaning that all of this is available, but this mortal man has to see who it is. Does that make sense? Are there any questions about this? Help me with this, please.
I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Where it says, for thou hast made him, Who is the thou there? Who is
Jehovah.
that? Jehovah has made him. Okay.
All of this starts in the first verse and continues. It's like a conversation between Jehovah Lord, Jehovah Adonai, and an individual.
Okay.
That's the way it's written. Any other question about this? Let me ask this thing. Maybe I can get some response with this. Is verse 5 clear? And I have a reason for asking that.
Yes.
Frightfully so.
With verse 5 being clear, that also speaks to what Barbara said a moment ago. You will not always be unripened. You will not always be a mortal man. You have the opportunity to see beyond being a mortal man and be what you were created to be, and that is Elohim. So, if any of you have a question or comment, please stop me. The sixth verse. The sixth verse says, "Thou made it to him to have dominion over the works of thy hand. Thou hast put all things under its feet." What he's saying, you have brought this mortal man into existence to reign, to rule, to exercise dominion over the works of your hand, over the accomplishments of your authority. And you have put all things under its feet. What does that mean? Everything is under your control in terms of being domineering. And when I use the word dominion or being dominant, I am not talking about the classical meaning of dominant when we talk about it in the material physical sense. Spiritual dominion says that you rule, you reign, meaning that you set boundaries. And the only boundaries, the only dominion that you can exercise is spiritual dominion. And spiritual dominion does not destroy. Spiritual dominion does not walk or trample on people or the rights of people. When you understand what spiritual dominion is, when you understand that you are protected so that you will have an opportunity to become Elohim rather than remaining a mere man. When you understand that, when you embrace that, it is then that the environment that you occupy begins to change as well. Does that make sense? I think it does. And in verse 7, what does it say in verse 7? All sheep and all oxen, yea, and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, goes into verse 8. Now, I stopped at verse 6. And the reason I stopped at verse 6 is because everything from verse 1 to verse 6 is speaking to who we are in terms of being mortal man, but it also speaks to the idea that we don't have to remain a mere man or just a mortal physical being. We don't have to remain that in our thoughts of ourselves. We can be Elohim by virtue of embracing the essence of our creation, the essence of our creator. And then we began to see with our eye instead of our eyes. And then we began to exert authority by the words that we speak, the life that we live, rather than having to use brute strength to exert any authority over anyone. Then we understand that having spiritual dominion does not mean you ride roughshod over anyone. It does not mean that you take advantage of someone simply because you're strong. That's the principle of Machiavelli. Might makes right. That is not what spiritual dominion is in any way, shape, or form. And when it gets into verse 7, it starts talking about sheep, oxen, the beasts of the field. You see that? Yes, you do. Now, when I started looking at it out of curiosity, what I started looking at is not just the words themselves, but I started looking at the root for these words. And when I looked at the root for sheep, it means to migrate. It means to move. And if we talk about a sheep, we're talking about spirituality, we're talking about migrating. We're talking about the migrating from the being a mere man to being recognizing that we are Elohim, that we are spiritual. We are more than mere men. When I looked at oxen, the root, it comes from the root that means to learn, to teach, to utter. And the oxen, using the oxen as a metaphor for this, the idea of learning, teaching, and to utter, that tells me you have to be strong in your conviction. You have to be strong in your will to push forward without faltering, simply because someone challenges you or challenge what you believe and tell you that you're going to hell. You have to be bold. So am I making sense? Is this making sense to y'all? Can you see the attributes here?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the beast comes from a root to be mute, not saying anything. And the field speaks to spread out, to cultivate, meaning that it says the beast of the field, as you travel this journey, you don't have to say a word for people to know who you are. And that is the reason when people are troubled and you are in a store shopping and they walk up to you and start talking to you and they land their life out before you, it is because they recognize that you are different in terms of the energy that you are oozing, the energy that's oozing from you is something different. And every time that you address the one who comes up to you, you are cultivating. And you are cultivating a field, or you're cultivating them to get to a place where they understand that they are more than what they think they are. And when it's someone who's in doubt or someone who's struggling, and you speak to them about trouble doesn't last always, we speak to them about the idea of changing our outlook on the troubles we see, because if we could change them, they would already be changed. And that in turn changes us, and we can sleep at night as opposed to worrying all night. Again, questions or comments, I appreciate them. And I did. Evan?
Yeah, I didn't mean to hit that button, but then I did.
Okay.
So I thought you were finished. I apologize.
Go ahead.
So am I the one who protects me? Because you know how you can be around people who have chaotic energy, and you don't want to, I don't know how to put it.
I think I know what you're asking.
Be around Does that make sense what I'm saying? Because they will lower your frequency. So my question again is, and sometimes people need to be around people so you can transform their energy if they're vibrating on a lower level. So am I the one who protect me? Because there are times when I can't be around somebody and I have to like protect myself from that energy that they give me. So that's my question. Are we the ones who protect ourselves? That's
Yes,
my question.
you protect your peace. Yes. However, there are times when you do, as you said, need to be around people who are functioning as they create a confused being. How also, you will know when you need to protect your peace. Because if that energy is not changing, what you have done when you spoke to it is sow the seed. And it may be someone else who has to cultivate that seed. But if you are not able to withstand that low vibration, that low energy, then it is necessary for you to, yes, protect your peace. Now, let me back up one step, if I may. The same encirclement that Jehovah protects us with, the same encirclement, the honor, the peace, the splendor, all of that is who we are. Now, when you become aware that you're Elohim and your whole desire is to function as Elohim, to be who you were created to be, then your energy, whether that person is around you or not, based on your desires to go beyond protecting yourself, but also have a heart for the one who is in a state of confusion, then your energy becomes the encirclement around that person, and that person is surrounded by honor, splendor, and majesty. So they have an opportunity to do what you did. But they have to have a desire to do that, and they have to deal with themselves as opposed to blaming everybody else. Does that make sense?
It does. And also, my next question is the crown we were talking about. The crown is, and I'm looking at it on the spiritual level. The crown is, explain the crown spiritually to me, please.
The spiritual crown is the encirclement by Yahweh, but and Yahweh encircles you with glory and honor. Yahweh encircles you in a majestic way, and that is why, for a long time, many of us had interludes with the what we know now as messages from the ancestors. We had interludes with that because we knew it was more, and we began to question it. And our desire to question was coming from the encirclement. And that's the crown. When they say crowned it with, that word should not have been crowned. It should have been encircled. Does that make sense, Evan?
Will you elaborate a little bit more on, I need a little more clarity on encircle, please.
Something surrounding you. You got, let me put it in a physical way with a spiritual understanding, okay? You are standing in the room and you know that there is more. You feel it, but you cannot articulate what you're experiencing. Well, what you are experiencing, the ones who are standing around you who you can't see, you have a desire to understand more. Now you are beginning to experience the majesty of our Creator. and you're beginning to see who you are. And when you embrace who you are, now you become the one who circles or surrounds other people, mankind, however you want to put it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So we're talking about an invisible encirclement when we talk about our eyes, not our eye. Any other questions or comments? Ron?
No, I'm okay. I want you to get to the 8th verse.
Okay. So when I
Hey, Pat,
go ahead,
this
Charles.
is Charles.
Uh-huh.
That's the same when he had said, I want to cover you like a chicken covers his chicks with his wings.
We're talking about what Jesus said. Yeah. This is the thing. You're right, Charles. All he was saying was, deliverance is saying that I want to protect you so you can be delivered, so you can know who you are. I want to surround you with who I am, with my essence, so I can protect you, so you can get to the understanding of who you are. You can have this awesome experience. Does that make sense, Charles?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And one more question. That's how you can say that. I can't put it in words right now. I'll tell you later.
Okay. All right. Ron, then George. Ron, if you're talking, you're muted. George?
Yeah, Pastor, good evening, everyone. When you mentioned the word awesome experience, it made me reflect and think about the stars. And when we think about the stars, and as you say, on a night where the moon is bright and you're able to look at the stars, you're able to appreciate, what we are seeing in the heavens, that word awesome made me think about us. Being stars, being the light, being the energy, that we're able to bring out the awesomeness of our creation and what we're able to create. And so just as, you were speaking about how awesome, you know, us being able to see ourselves as being a star, being a light, being a radiance in a way that we can see through all of this suffering or what appears to be suffering, we can see the glory that is revealed in us. So I just was thinking of that word when you mentioned how awesome, you know, we are engaged. I'm done.
Thank you, sir. If in order to be a deliverer, you have to know that you are the light for this earth consciousness, the light of the world. You can't deliver without believing that you are the light that is necessary for deliverance. Any question about that? If not, Ron. You were about to ask just before Charles spoke. You muted.
You hadn't gotten to verse 8 yet. I was going to be patient.
Oh, okay. All right. Verse 8.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Before you get to 8,
Let me,
I
Charles,
got one more question.
and then you.
Charles.
You, okay, Charles, go ahead.
I don't want to take no one for place.
Go ahead, Charles.
Now, we all have an aura about ourselves. Does that aura protect you in the midst of all this that what we talking about?
In ways that you couldn't imagine. We are more protected than we know. And there are times when we walk outside of that protection because we don't obey what we are hearing or what we call intuition. Your aura is much larger than it appears to be when it is shown through color spectrum. Thank you, sir. Audrey?
Well, I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I'm thinking about the sinister side of it. And I think it's part of why it's hard for us to believe that we are crowned with glory and honor. Because of how and I see this so clearly, how the Catholic Church, the universal church, used this to justify slavery and to justify whatever they did to people who were not considered Christian. But yeah, they made us believe a certain thing about ourselves as if we were part of the beast of the fields. So I think we have to allow ourselves to get past that and believe that we are who we are in the spiritual sense, so that we accept that we are crowned with glory and honor. And nobody can take that away from us. So we just have to become aware. We have to have the realization.
Right. And in having that realization, it's not an academic process. You know, you can get there, even if you have to keep talking to yourself about who you are. You know, you can get to that space. And when you get to that space, you don't even think about it anymore. You don't. You just know who you are, and you see some miraculous things happening. That what we call miraculous, but I think the miracle is not knowing who we are. You know. But anyway, thank you. All right. Anyone else before I go to verse 8? Foul. And again, I did my little disclaimer because I did not go in depth in this. All I did was look at the root from which these words were taken, as opposed to their function in the animalistic world, okay, or in the world of animals and fowl and fish. Fowl, root. The root for fowl speaks to the idea of skipping around or skipping or being dubious, meaning that it speaks to the idea of doubt, of wavering, of hesitating in what you believe. The state of being dubious leaves you wide open to having the inclination to doubt yourself and things around you. Now, doubt is not bad. Doubt is destructive when doubt leads you to a place where you don't believe anything. Doubt can also be a catalyst. And that catalyst of doubt will cause you to search on your own to erase your doubt. And when we talk about things that you have not heard or experienced before, and when we say things like, check it out for yourself, all we are saying is, don't hesitate to ask us questions or to search for it yourself, or to hold our feet to the fire about what we say. That's the file. Any questions about the file? Hang on there, spot now. Okay. Air. Air is to be lofty because that's shamayim. That's the same word for heaven. So air is talking about being lofty. Go ahead.
I'm listening.
Oh, I thought you said something. Fish. The root word for fish speaks to moving rapidly or to grow, to multiply. And when you look at this, these are the things that we have dominion over. It's not the sheep and the goat. It is speaking from the root of these words. The sea means to roar, to roar like a lion, or to make a loud noise. When I think about the roaring of the sea having the root word to roar, then I'm thinking about something that is powerful, something that gets your attention and holds your attention, matter of fact. Then and let's put the rest of it together. It says, and what's that last verse? Read the last portion of that, after the sea.
That's the part that I'm puzzled about, because anywhere else you've seen in the scriptures where it talks about the sea, it'll say the fish of the sea. We're used to seeing that, but this says, and whatever passes through the paths of the
That's
sea.
where I'm going. That's what I want you to read
okay.
it. I want you to read it, please.
The birds of the heavens and the fish of the sea, whatever passes through the paths of the seas.
Okay, gotcha. Through, in this particular sentence, or this particular reference, through talks about to pass over something, or it's like a pathway.
Mm-hmm.
You pass over something, and path speaks to your journey. And sea again means to roar. So it's talking about passing over something, passing over from where you were to begin your journey. Does that make sense? Example. What is that Joshua said? Choose you this day which God you will serve, whether it be the God on the other side of the river or the God. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. So when you pass over something, you have passed from one life to another. And you have passed from one life to another, and that's what begins your new journey. And the roaring, I don't know how to fit that. All I know is that roaring speaks to power, because it takes tremendous power for you to hear water roar.
Seas also speak to chaos.
And it does. However, as we have said in the past, the words that are spoken are in context with what all this statement is about.
Okay.
And the context of it is not talking about chaos, because if you are surrounded by glory and majesty, and you have chosen, you recognize rather who you are and understand the dominion and what it means. And then you begin to move from the space where you were. All of this is speaking to attributes that you begin to learn about yourself as you travel that journey. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's the positivity of it. Positivity. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? And it ends the same way it started. Yahweh, Lord, our ruler, Yahweh, our ruler, our master, Yahweh, majestic. How majestic is your name? How majestic is your character in all of the earth? Your characteristics are in all of the earth, meaning that your character is infused into the consciousness of the earth. What the way it ends, it is like a sandwich. It started out exalting Yahweh or Jehovah, because both are the same, and then it ends the same way, exalting Yahweh, because all of these things, these attributes that you have established, you have ordained, these are the attributes that a mortal man has, but he doesn't know it until he begins to search for himself on the spiritual journey. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Any comments about this? If there's anything that need clarification, is there anything that you think you may not understand, or that you want to be expounded upon? Do that right now.
I guess I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I like to kind of ponder this verse, because
Of course.
I've read this before, of course, but I don't remember this verse. Verse 8.
Yeah. And that's like most of the stuff we've done. We read the scriptures,
Yeah,
we talked about them. But guess what? What is taking place is when we passed over from religion, we had all these questions. And as we were searching, we did not realize that we were purging ourselves.
yeah,
And during that course of purging ourselves, more was being revealed to us. And without regard to anything that we read in the past, even right now, we don't have all the clarity of this, the understanding of this. There is no doubt in my mind that we will at some point revisit it and see more than what we are seeing now. Does that make sense?
yes.
Absolutely.
So I'm very much open to that, to ponder it and share with us what you see. And I say that to all of us, not just Ron, to every one of you. Ponder it, and if you see something, let's talk about it. Because I promise you, I don't see everything.
Well, I have a question.
Mhm.
You said sea, the sea is roaring or something like that?
ROAR, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But the sea is also water, right?
Mhm.
And water speaks to spirit.
Mhm.
So how does that relate?
Ron, pondering that.
I mean, because I can see him, it's telling us that we have authority over anything anything that passes through our spirit,
Yeah.
we have authority over. Any
See?
physical, material, whatever, we have authority over it.
Never come roaring through. We got authority over it.
Yeah.
And see, that's partly what has me puzzled. That why did it use see here? Is it talking about the mystery of life, the unknown spiritual part of it? Because paths here talks about part of the journey that is well known. You keep taking the same path. You've made this thing wide enough or open enough that you understand I'm going this way again. It's not just I'm cutting my way through. I know this way. Others have gone this way. So when you talk about path, it means that it is trodden down. It's land that's been traveled a lot. And but the word sea there is what got me, the water. I've never seen a path through the water, those things that path. So I'm thinking it is talking spiritually here, the part of man that he doesn't know, the part that maybe ancestors and everybody's been searching for, but you haven't discovered that part of yourself yet. And in the midst of when you are crowned and put yourself here, this is part of that journey, and you will discover those things that have been mysterious to you, are being hidden from you. I don't know.
I know, Audrey.
Just trying to see this.
Well, you could say that about the heavens too.
Ab-
When we talk about universes that are forever, going on forever and ever, the number of it, I think both of them can have something to do with the universal mind, if you will, the universal consciousness. The fact that there are the depths of which we don't fathom because they are so different. They're so new. It's untapped potential, if you will. It's all potential, all potential solutions, all potential. Hey, little children, be quiet. All potential. I don't know any other word, but all potential. Even in the heavens, even when you talk about the fowls that fly there, or any thoughts that we may have, be it as it relates to the fowls, and if you think about what you said about the spiritual meaning of fowl, and be they related to the sea, and what you talked about the animals of the sea, the air, the fish, blah, blah, blah. There is just so much untapped potential that we have access to that we may not even be aware. Well, may not be. We're totally not there in terms of our total awareness.
You're right.
Yeah.
And you know, Bob, I want us to know that we must be aware. There's no question about it. But being totally aware before we can influence change, we don't have to be that. And something else, instead of using the word crowned, talk about the encirclement or the surrounding. Why? Because this idea of a crown is so religious until if we talk about it as a crown, there might be some people on here who are waiting for their crown, who don't realize, and I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about in the future, who don't realize that this means something totally different. That's all.
Is it the same as the hedge around?
Yeah. And what it does, it is a hedge around, but it describes the hedge. What is the hedge? It describes the spiritual essence of what's around. If you are surrounded by honor and majesty, then you have the opportunity to be honored, to be majestic. The question is, are you going to travel this journey and become that, and become aware of that? And if you have to tell somebody I'm majestic, then you really aren't. Because these are attributes that you look at, you know are available, you desire these attributes, you learn as much as you can about the light and being enlightened. You see the wisdom of it all, and then you get the understanding of it. All of this. And the idea of being honored and being majestic, that idea of that is seen from other people. That's why they walk up to you in the store. Think about it. Why do they trust you with their business? Why do they tell you, pour out their heart to you? They see something in you that you haven't seen. And they don't even know what they saw. But it's something deeper than that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Ron?
Well, I'm done. I've enjoyed this.
Seriously, let's do this then, because I got to go too. Let's do this. Let's look at this again for the first time, and talk about it again on Saturday. What do you think? I mean, how many times have we looked at stuff again for the first time? Look at like we've never seen it before. Start all over, and see and see what the experiences will be from the Creator, from the ancestor, and revealing things to us. How about that? Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. So, having said that, I must bid you adieu. And my desire for you this evening is to enjoy the rest of your evening by knowing that what you're actually doing this evening is continuing to fill in the page of your life that started this morning when you woke up. So let the reader writer write, and that is you.
Thank
Spirit.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Take care, family.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Hi, good evening.
Bye.
All right, everyone.